after Father's beautiful words and stories. He's so good at sharing his heart and his experience, right? So very moving. So the topic of this talk is charity in teen life. And it's something that I think is not, obviously, for any of you, the first time you've thought about it. I think every time that we meet as a group of people, especially as Christian people, it's on our mind. Okay, how do I love in this meeting, in this situation, in this group of people, with this individual, right? So it's definitely something that should be foremost in our hearts and our minds as we live in community, and especially in Regnum Christi as a community of apostles. And I don't know if you have ever experienced this, but when, maybe others visit, or you're leading something in the parish, or doing something just even with another Regnum Christi member, that others can notice the love that we have for each other, this certain bond that we have as Regnum Christi, called to the same vocation, to live out our Catholic faith in a special way, in a distinct way. That's the way that God has called us to, that he calls other people to live it in a different way, and just as much glorifying God, but in our life as Regnum Christi, we're called to model and to live fully this Christian charity. And that see how they love one another, right? That's from early Christianity. That's something that I think his name is Tertullian, a convert, and then a preacher. He said he noticed that as Christianity, or the Christian community, was starting to be known, what people would say about them is, wow, see how they love one another. See how they care for and treat each other. They're animated by love, not hatred, by giving of themselves to each other, acceptance, not animosity or competition. So very beautiful. And actually, Father Jeremy Lambert was just telling me, he has another legionary priest friend that lives in the Holy Land right now. And he also, I know him but he was sharing with Father Jeremy, like, it's just living in the Holy Land, you realize charity really is Christian. It's not something that the Israelis or even the Jews, our ancestors in the faith, it's not even a Jewish value of Judaism, this charity, this love for one another. You walk down the street and you're expecting to be, brushed, and there's no apology. You're expecting to have these run-ins with people. So it just, I think Father Jeremy was just sharing, like, wow, I hadn't really thought, we live in such a Christian culture. Well, at least the foundations of it were, and there's still like this, politeness and kindness, at least to some extent, that's encouraged in our culture, but it's kind of only that deep, unless it's founded in Christian values of true love, of I'm not just being nice and polite socially, or to stay on the good side of someone else, or to have the advantage in my social circles. Actually, I'm here, I'm in it to love even those that do me wrong, to turn the other cheek, to really get to know another person in their depths, and not in what the impression I have of them, or the way that they rub me wrong, or what they can do for me. That deeper love and charity is theological. It's not, just this like, be kind to others, like on a superficial level that is easily dismissed if someone does you wrong. So anyway, that just made me reflect, like, how uniquely Christian this true charity is. That's not just kindness deep, it's a deep love. And so we as Regnum Christi, as Catholics, as Christians, and in Regnum Christi it's expressed in a way that I think is helpful to look back at. So I'm going to read in our statutes of the Federation of Regnum Christi. Wait a minute. I haven't introduced myself really. I thought maybe that would be helpful. So for somebody that maybe I haven't talked to or have questions about. So I'm Margie Lademan, and I live in New Orleans, and I am consecrated in Regnum Christi. And that means that I live the Regnum Christi spirituality and mission and vocation, but I'm called to live it as a full life dedication to the Lord. So I live poverty, chastity, and obedience. I have vows that bind me to the Lord for my whole life and into eternity. And I live in community with other consecrated women, and we live, our life is for serving the church, for living out the mission of Regnum Christi. That's what brings me here. I live in New Orleans in our community there, but I also serve around Louisiana, helping in our apostolates of Regnum Christi, and then in the formation and just the community of Regnum Christi wherever I go. So that's what brings me here, and that's who I am. So I share these statutes of the Federation of Regnum Christi is a guiding document that expresses how we as Regnum Christi members, which is legionaries, consecrated women, consecrated lay men of Regnum Christi, and all of the associated members of Regnum Christi. This is kind of what brings us together and how we express how we want to live out our Catholic faith as in this particular vocation to Regnum Christi. So in the statutes of the Federation, number 6, it shares the spiritual foundations of our vocation. And it says in number 6, we recognize it as God's plan that the legionaries of Christ, the consecrated women of Regnum Christi, the lay consecrated men of Regnum Christi, and the associated faithful live in a profound communion, and that we are to be witnesses to the love of Jesus Christ by the unity and charity among us. And this number goes on to express some other things, but I thought that kind of in a nutshell is why charity for us is so important. We want to, by the fact that we are a spiritual family that incorporates so many different ways of life, like it's not like the priests over here and then the lay people live something different. Like we actually come together and we want to live and express that communion, the communion of saints, the communion of people here on earth striving together to live out our Christian values and to bring the kingdom into the world. So the way that we do that, we live communion, profound communion, and that we are witnesses to the love of Jesus Christ by unity and charity among us. So that's why this is so important, and that's what we try to live out. And our way of living mission flows from that love and charity that we have among us and the unity that we live. So where that comes from, obviously, is this theological virtue, this theological gift that God gives us of charity, along with faith and hope. Those are the three theological virtues that we receive as baptized Christians. It's not something that we can achieve on our own. It's a gift that then we exercise and we grow and we develop and we live out in concrete ways. So there's numbers that if you have time and want to go deeper in your prayer on this theme of charity, you could look at. There's in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, number 1822 through 1829 are the numbers about charity specifically, but I thought I'd read just a few little parts of it. So charity is the theological virtue by which we love God above all things for his own sake, and our neighbor as ourselves for the love of God. Because of God, we love our neighbors as ourselves. And Jesus makes charity the new commandment. By loving his own to the end, he made manifest the Father's love, which he receives. And by loving one another, the disciples imitate the love of Jesus, which they themselves receive. It's kind of like what Father was saying. We receive this love first, but then we give it. That's what makes us disciples. We actually go out and then transmit that love in the way that Jesus did. number 1825 says, Christ died out of love for us while we were still enemies. And the Apostle Paul, he expresses what charity looks like to our friends, our neighbors, and our enemies. Charity is patient and kind. Charity is not jealous or boastful. It is not arrogant or rude. Charity does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrong, but rejoices in the right. Charity bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. So when we start to live out our Regnum Christi lifestyle, we are very much called to live in community, in team, right? So this charity is not just me as an individual kind of, trying it out on my own, but like me as part of a team of Regnum Christi. That's where I learn, not just learn, but continue to learn and be enriched in my living of charity and building up my team as a community founded in love. And so we're called to that team life, and I thought I would share the number in the rule of life for Regnum Christi. So this is like another document that helps to kind of break down what it looks like to live out our calling of Regnum Christi in our daily lives. So it's talking about team life for especially the lay members of Regnum Christi. And this is the rule of life number 14. It says the lay members of Regnum Christi ordinarily form part of a team. The team is the mutual setting where their life in Regnum Christi grows and develops. A team is a group of members united in Christian fraternity to help each other on their journey of sanctification, in their formation and in their apostolic work, following the example of the first Christian communities. Teams, as communities of apostles, can be organized in various ways according to the concrete circumstances of each locality of the Federation. And in our team, as we know, like one of the crucial activities as a team is the encounter with Christ. So the next number is about that, number 15. It says the encounter with Christ is the center of team life. In it, the lay members, as the community of faith, by the light of God's word, examine their Christian life, discern what the Lord expects of them in evangelizing the reality of the world in which they live, encourage each other in their following of Christ, and enkindle their apostolic zeal. So the greatest charity that we can have with each other in our team life is doing this. It's discerning together, encouraging each other in their following of Christ, accompanying each other in our way of sanctification, which is the difficult times and the good times, being there for each other in that, and then living mission together. I remember once, this was a while ago, a woman who was in Regnum Christi for years, back in the day before before we had our scandal in Regnum Christi with our founder. And that really shook things up a lot. And I think it was a good shake-up, because she was expressing how it had changed when she was talking about it. And she was just talking about her journey. But her team before in Regnum Christi was very, a little bit, her experience was like, everyone's got it together. And we just come and we share on this spiritual level that's very inspiring, but sometimes a little bit unattainable, or maybe not fake, but idealistic. So, and she and her family, one of her children was going through something that she knew her team would find scandalous, that it was not something that, was according to the Catholic Church. I don't remember the circumstances exactly, but you can all fill in plenty of blanks, what that could have been. And her experience was like, I can't be part of my team anymore. I'm no longer worthy. And I don't know, it could have been either just her, where she was at, perceived reactions that she thought could happen, or maybe it was really the team kind of oh, well, you should have been able to avoid this, or I don't know. And just, she didn't explain exactly, but her experience was, I don't think I'll be accepted. I don't think that I have a place anymore. And then after the scandal of founder and the renewal in Regnum Christi, she was like, oh, okay, I guess maybe we're all going to be a little more real now, and I'll actually find a place where we're there for each other in what's happening in our lives, and we're there to support each other and to build each other up and to welcome where that person is at and what they need from us right now. So I just, I don't think that that was an isolated experience necessarily, and it can be something that in our teams now, like, to just think, what would it be like to know I will always have a place in my team. I can come as I am, and I'm going to be able to experience that Christian charity, that being built up, that being supported, being accepted, being called higher, because that's another thing. It's not just we're helping each other to grow as entities. So if that means helping a sister to see where she can grow, to challenge each other to greater holiness, to greater self-giving, to not be just in our comfort zone, that's also an act of love. And so I think there's things that can only come from prayer, this knowing what charity looks like. For me, in my team right now, isn't an easy thing always to know, because sometimes it means speaking up, sometimes it means being silent, sometimes it means saying an encouraging word, sometimes it means calling higher, or bringing something to someone's attention, or speaking up on behalf of someone, and that's not easy. So I would say the first thing to build charity in our teams is prayer, asking the Lord for me, just for me, what am I called to? How am I called to love today in this team, this person on my team, this situation that's coming up, this conflict that's developing? Lord, what do you want from me for my team today? And then praying about each one of my sisters on my team. With this one, Lord, help me to see her as you see her. Lord, help me to be patient with the situation she's going through. Help me to accept her way of expressing herself. Help me to see beyond, maybe what's evident. Help me to be a safe place for them. Help me to honor and to safeguard this intimacy that we have on a team, and not hold that lightly. So asking the Lord first for him to lead us in our love for our team and our charity in our team, and also actually asking for his insight to grow in love individually for each one of our sisters on our team. And then there are different human virtues or ways that we can concretely think, this will help me and my team to live charity and to have this experience of unity. So the first one, it's a human value, but it really is a foundational thing for charity and love to flourish, and that's respect. So respect meaning, I think where that word comes from is like looking again, spectare, to see, to spectate, to look again, like to not just jump to conclusions, not to take things lightly, to look again, right? So that's, really doing the work to really know what's needed and what's happening, right? To look again. But in just the very human meaning of that word, it's like respecting our team, what we've decided together, when we meet, how long we meet, really showing up for each other, giving space to each to speak, and also showing up and responding when I know like what my input could be helpful, not holding back. That respect and privacy of the sacredness of what my team is sharing, that I don't take that out anywhere, that I'm creating a safe space, that respect for each other. Another way to build this charity is just to really live in this freedom and courage of the children of God. Say, I'm living by the Holy Spirit, and not holding back when I know he's asking me something, or when it's even something that's going to be hard for me. So I don't know, I'm sure you all have heard this phrase that's thrown out all the time of St. Augustine, love and do as you will, love and do what you will, which, you know, when you just hear it like that, it's like, oh, as long as you're loving, do whatever you want, you know, like that's kind of how it can be interpreted, right? But where there's love, where there's true love, there can be a multitude of things that come from that. And not just like, this is exactly what it means to love, and you know, you need to follow what everyone thinks love means in this moment. No, I'm actually discerning what's the most loving thing. And maybe that'll look different from what someone else is being called to do in this moment to show love, right? So that actually I looked it up and I found the full quote of St. Augustine helps a lot to understand this phrase of love and do as you will. So I thought I'd read it to you. Where do I have it? Oh, so it starts this way. It says, if you keep silent by love. If you speak by love. If you correct by love. If you pardon by love. If you let love be rooted in you, and from that root, nothing but good can grow. Love and do what you will. So this takes a lot of purification, right, inside of like, am I really motivated by love in doing this? Or is there any ulterior human motive of, you know, oh great, I'm gonna point out this thing that we can grow more, but it's really just a pet peeve that I have. And so I'm like, oh guys, I really think the Holy Spirit is asking us, like, have I really prayed about that? And put aside anything that I could be, I mean, right? Like we do that. And it's, but that prayer and that purifying my love, like, is this really actually something? Is this the way to say it? Is this the time to say it? Does it need to be said, or what needs to come first? What, you know, how can I lay the ground? Does it need to be said in front of everyone? Does it need to be a personal conversation first with somebody to clear the air, to seek understanding? All of that is part of this discernment of like, what's the truest and most pure action now? Even if it's something that we feel uncomfortable doing or offering. If it comes from the Holy Spirit and that freedom of the children of God, we will find that strength and that motivation to do it. Communication that's clear, that's loving, that's at the service of others, validating others, you know, recognizing when you see someone's having a hard time and seeing them in that and saying it, hey, that must have been a really hard thing to hear. Or, you know, sometimes there are moments in our conversation that things come out the wrong way, or somebody gets a little bit impatient or says something out of turn that's a little hurtful. To be able to go to that person and say, hey, I don't think that was quite fair, and I'm sorry that happened to you, or like, I hope that we can hear more later. Or so that validation of the person when you see that they need it, and that validation of their blessedness, calling out their blessedness, like, hey, I don't think you realize you have a gift for this. You need to, we want to see more of that. Like, you are a blessing to us. That act of love, of recognizing and communicating that validation, can really free someone to be their fullest expression of themselves and the gift. So let's continue as a team and as an individual to just really be asking the Lord to guide us. How can I love the most right now in this situation, with this person, with this team? And maybe something that could be helpful in the small groups that you're about to have is just to share, if there has been experience that you've really experienced the charity in your team that you didn't expect, or in a way that really did help you, motivate you to then continue to grow in your own charity, or to feel validated and freed to greater blessedness and greater self-giving, or to share even, you know, after this talk, or other things that probably the Lord has been doing in you that you feel are enriching you and helping you to move forward in your growth in this Christian charity based on the love of Jesus that you've experienced and that you want to give to others. So I think that with that we can shift into a small groups. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay, if you